What if the life you feared was the very life that finally set you free? The wagon wheels shook against stone and sand as Ruth Hall rode farther from Denver and deeper into the unknown. She kept her eyes fixed on the Rocky Mountains, rising like dark blue teeth against the October sky. She did not dare look back. Everything behind her was gone now. Her home, her city, even her name felt like something she had left on the road miles ago. Her hands, used to needlework and bookkeeping, gripped the rough wagon seat until splinters dug into her skin. Each jolt of the wagon reminded her she was no longer the daughter of a merchant. She was now Mrs. Mendoza, a stranger's wife. Ethan Wood, the hired guide, spat tobacco juice over the side and gave her a nod. "First time seeing high country, ma'am." "Mrs. Mendoza," she corrected softly. The name still felt like a stone in her mouth. Ethan chuckled. "A new name takes time. Marriage does too." She had no answer. What could she say? That her parents had taken $500 from a man Ruth had never met? That they had bundled her onto this wagon like freight? That she had been sold to pay off her father's debts? The land climbed and changed as they moved. Pines thickened along the slopes. Cold wind rushed down from snowy peaks. The air smelled of pine, creek water, and something sharp and wild. Ruth breathed it deep, trying to fill the hollow place in her chest. "Your husband's got a good spread," Ethan said, trying to be kind. 800 acres, water rights. "Some share in the Fortuna mine. Built the house himself, too. Folks say it's not fancy, but solid." The facts floated around her like distant things. Her mother had said them with pride, as if listing fine furniture. As if a stranger's wealth could comfort a daughter being sold. The sun dropped behind the peaks as they reached the ridge overlooking Clearwater Valley. Below, a bright ribbon of creek cut through brown autumn grass. Cattle grazed in loose groups. And in the center of it all stood a sturdy log house with smoke drifting from its chimney. Ruth's stomach twisted. Someone was waiting for her in that house. A man who had bought a wife he had never met. As they rolled into the yard, a tall man stepped out of the barn. He did not rush. He did not stare. He simply stood there, watching with steady dark eyes, broad shoulders, strong hands, a quiet calm. "That'll be him," Ethan said. Samuel Mendoza removed his hat as Ruth climbed down. "Mrs. Mendoza," he said gently. His voice was deep, warm at the edges with a soft accent. "Welcome to Clearwater Ranch." She expected roughness, perhaps cruelty, but his hands, when he helped her down, were careful, gentle, as if he knew she was bracing for harm. "Mr. Mendoza." "Samuel," he corrected with a small smile. "You've had a long journey." He led her into the house. It smelled of cedar and wood smoke. Books lined a shelf by the fireplace. A wooden table sat neatly set. Everything was simple, but cared for. "I prepared the front bedroom for you," he said quietly. "You'll want your own space while we get to know each other." Ruth froze. "My own room?" Samuel raised an eyebrow. "Did you think I was the kind of man to take what wasn't freely given? A bill of sale doesn't make a marriage, Mrs. Mendoza. Time and consent do." Her breath caught. No one had offered her consent in a very long time. Over stew and bread, he asked simple questions about her bookkeeping, her trip, her comfort. He listened, truly listened. No man in Denver ever had, especially not her father. Finally, he set down his spoon. "I want to be honest with you. I didn't search for a bride. Your father approached my business partner and said you wished to come west. I believed him. His dark eyes held hers, steady and sincere. If I was misled, if you were forced, then your choices begin here, not in Denver." Ruth's spoon slipped from her fingers. "You'd let me go? After paying for—" "You're not property." His voice was low, firm. "If you choose to leave in spring, when the pass is clear, I'll pay your way back. Until then, you'll have your own room, your own freedom, your own say." She stared at him. The offer felt like something impossible. "What if I stay for the winter only?" she whispered. Then that is your choice, Samuel said. Work with me through the cold months. Learn the ranch life. Come spring, decide if you remain Ruth Hall or become Ruth Mendoza for real. A strange warmth spread through her chest. Not love, not yet, but relief, possibility. Very well, she said softly. I'll stay for winter. Fair enough. Samuel stood. I'll show you your room. The small bedroom held a simple bed, a washstand, and a bright quilt. On the nightstand sat a kerosene lamp and a book. Someone had thought of her. One more thing, Samuel said. He pulled a small revolver from behind his belt and held it out. This is yours. Keep it close. Out here there are animals, and sometimes men who are worse. Ruth hesitated. You'd arm someone who might be your enemy? You're not my enemy. His voice was soft. You're someone who deserved a choice and got none. Until now. Ruth stood alone in the quiet room, revolver in hand, the mountain wind whispering outside. Her old life, filled with rooms she never chose and voices she never matched, felt far away. This place was hard, wild, unforgiving. But for the first time in her life, she felt something new, hope. Ruth woke the next morning to the rooster's cry and the scent of strong coffee drifting through the house. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered the mountains, the ranch, the man who had offered her freedom when no one else had. She dressed quickly and stepped into the main room. Samuel was already at the stove, pan sizzling, coffee boiling. Morning, he said without turning. Hope you like your coffee strong. Haven't learned any other way. Strong is fine, Ruth said, warming her hands on the cup he handed her. Outside, dawn painted the mountains pearl gray. The day felt cold and sharp, like the edge of a new beginning. First lesson, Samuel said as he pulled on his coat. Everything here runs on routine. Chickens first. She followed him outside into the crisp morning. Her shawl did little against the bite of the air, but she stood straighter than she had in weeks. She was learning something new. Something that mattered. The chicken coop was sturdier than it looked. Samuel showed her how to scatter grain and collect eggs without disturbing the hens. Ruth held the warm eggs in her palms, marveling at the simplicity of it. In Denver, eggs appeared on the table without thought. Here, she could feel the life still clinging to their shells. Next, the horses, Samuel said, leading her to the barn. 2 ranch horses lifted their heads, and a smaller mare pushed forward as if curious. Her coat was the color of wheat. Her name is Dusty. She's gentle, sure-footed. She'll be yours to ride. Ruth reached out a careful hand. Dusty lipped her palm gently, warm breath brushing Ruth's skin. I'll teach you to saddle her yourself, Samuel said. Out here, you need to be able to take care of your own. She liked the way he said it. Not as an order, not as a correction, just truth. The cow came next. A stubborn creature named Bessie who had no patience for Ruth's clumsy attempts at milking. After several failed tries, Ruth sighed, frustrated. Samuel knelt beside her. Firm but gentle, he said. His hands moved over hers, guiding her carefully. His touch was steady, patient, never lingering more than needed. Finally, milk streamed into the pail. There, Samuel said with a quiet smile, you've got it. By the time morning chores ended, Ruth's back ached in unfamiliar places. But she felt strong, capable, more alive than she had in years. After breakfast, Samuel gathered tools. We'll ride out and check the fence line. Need to bring the cattle down soon. Snow comes fast at this altitude. Ruth changed into her riding skirt and saddled Dusty, with only a little help. Samuel watched with quiet approval. You learn quick, he said. They rode along a narrow trail that wound through aspen and pine. The air smelled of sap and snow. Ruth felt Dusty's steady rhythm beneath her, and something inside her eased. It's beautiful, she said softly. Different from Denver, Samuel said. Everything is different. He glanced at her. Good different or bad different? I'm still deciding. They reached the first break in the fence where a fallen pine had crushed the wire. Samuel cleared branches while Ruth held the reins. She watched the strong, sure movements of his hands, the way he worked with purpose, not anger. "Samuel," she said as he straightened, "yesterday you said you knew what it was like to have choices taken." He paused, then nodded. "I was 16 when Confederate soldiers burned our ranch in New Mexico, took me and my brother as prisoners. We worked their supply lines. Fever took him. War took everything else." Ruth's breath caught. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "A long time ago," Samuel replied, "but it taught me something. Freedom is worth fighting for, and no one should live without choices." They fixed 3 more sections of fence before noon. Ruth's hands blistered despite her gloves, but she refused to complain. Samuel noticed anyway. "We'll harden those hands yet," he said with a grin. They ate lunch by a clear mountain creek. Cold biscuits, dried meat, and water that tasted of snowmelt. Ruth felt more peace than she had ever known. On the ride back, they saw a rider waiting near the barn, a young man with sandy hair and a friendly smile. "That's Tom Bradley," Samuel said. "Neighbor." Tom touched his hat. "Heard you brought home a bride, Sam. Wanted to offer my congratulations." Ruth stiffened slightly, unsure. Tom's smile widened. "My wife, Sarah, will be thrilled. Says she needs another woman around here or she'll start talking to the chickens." Ruth felt a small spark of hope. A friend, maybe. After Tom rode off, she helped Samuel with evening chores. Her muscles screamed, but pride carried her through. Over supper, Samuel said, "I've been thinking about your idea for cold frames. Might help the garden survive the early freezes." Ruth brightened. "I'd love to help build one." "You've got a smart mind." His eyes warmed. "Never let anyone tell you different." The words settled deep in her heart. In Denver, being smart was a flaw. Here, it felt like a gift. That night, she lay in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Outside, coyotes called across the valley. Instead of fear, she felt a sense of belonging. Tomorrow, she would work again, learn again, try again. For the first time, Ruth began to imagine a future that wasn't chosen for her, a future she might choose herself. Snow fell in soft waves across Clearwater Ranch as Ruth stepped onto the porch, her shawl wrapped tight around her shoulders. Winter had settled deep into the valley, but inside her heart something new had begun to grow. She had been on the ranch for months now. She had learned to milk cows, mend fences, tend gardens, and shoot straight. She had faced fear, danger, and doubt. And through it all, Samuel had stood beside her with steady patience and quiet respect. One morning, Samuel prepared for his monthly trip to the Fortuna mine. He loaded the wagon with supplies and checked his rifle carefully. "I'll be back tomorrow night," he said. "Tom will ride by in the afternoon to check on you." "I'll be fine," Ruth said, and she meant it. She was not the helpless girl who had arrived months ago. Samuel paused beside her. "Remember, if anything feels wrong, trust your instincts and don't hesitate." "I won't," she tried to smile. "You taught me well." Quote. He touched his hat, climbed onto the wagon, and rattled down the snowy road until he disappeared among the cottonwoods. For most of the day, Ruth kept busy. She watered the animals, chopped vegetables for stew, and worked on the cold frame she and Samuel had started building. She hummed softly as she worked, grateful for the peace of the quiet valley. But late in the afternoon, she heard horses approaching, fast. Ruth stepped onto the porch, hand on the revolver Samuel had given her. 3 riders appeared from the trees. Gregory Patel led them, a cruel smile twisting his face. Behind him rode 2 rough-looking men. Ruth's stomach tightened. "You're not welcome here." "Now that's a rude greeting for visitors," Patel said, dismounting. "We only came to talk." "You can speak to my husband when he returns." Patel chuckled. "Oh, he won't be back soon. One of my boys here swears he saw Mendoza riding south, running from a crime. A shame, really." Ruth knew at once it was a lie. Samuel would never run. Patel stepped closer. "Territory law says if a man disappears while under investigation, his property can be taken by the court. And with the right statement from you, well, everything becomes easier." "You won't get anything from me," Ruth said, raising her chin. "That's where you're wrong," Patel snapped. "Sign the paper, or things get unpleasant." His men spread out, one circling toward the barn, the other slinking toward the porch. The younger man smirked. "You think you can scare me?" Ruth asked, steadying her breath. "I don't need to scare you," he said. "I just need you alone." Ruth drew her gun in one swift motion, just like Samuel had taught her. "Stop right there." The younger man froze. Patel snorted. "You wouldn't shoot." Ruth fired once. The bullet clipped the brim of the young man's hat clean off, sending it spinning into the snow. "I don't miss twice," Ruth warned. Everything went still. But then the big man rushed her. Ruth stumbled back, but training guided her. She stepped in, not back, turning his momentum. The revolver pressed under his chin. "No more chances," she said. Before Patel could react, a rifle cracked. His gun flew out of his hand. Tom Bradley emerged from behind the chicken coop with two neighbors beside him. "This land belongs to the Mendozas," Tom said. "You boys best ride out while you still can." Patel backed up quickly now, clutching his hand. "You'll regret this." "No," Ruth said. "You will." The men rode off, defeated. When the valley grew quiet again, Tom walked up the porch steps. "You handled yourself well, Ruth." "I was scared," she admitted, breath shaking. "Doesn't matter. You did what you had to. That takes courage." That night, Samuel returned long after dark. He burst into the house the moment he saw the lantern burning. Ruth ran to him. "Samuel, He held her tight. "Tom told me everything. You stood against 3 men, alone." "I did," she whispered. "And you're safe." His voice broke with relief. They sat together at the kitchen table as she told him every detail. He listened without interrupting, his eyes full of a quiet pride that warmed her more than the fire in the stove. "You protected our home," he said softly. "You protected yourself, Ruth. I'm proud of you." The words filled her with something deep and steady, belonging, strength, partnership. Winter passed slowly, but not painfully. Ruth and Samuel grew closer, not through force or expectation, but through shared work, shared meals, and shared trust. They talked late into the nights by lamplight, learning each other's stories, fears, and hopes. By spring, Ruth realized something simple and true. She had stopped counting the days until she could leave. One warm April evening, the sun dipped low over the valley, turning the creek silver. Ruth stood on the porch, watching the light dance on the water. Samuel stepped beside her, quiet as always. "You've been thinking," he said. "I have." "About staying? Or leaving?" Ruth looked at the mountains, at the fields she'd worked with her own hands, at the home she'd helped defend. Then she turned to him. "I want to stay," she said. "Not because I owe you, not because I have nowhere else, because this is my home now, and because you are the man I choose." Samuel's breath caught. "Ruth, are you sure?" Quote, "Yes," she said, heart steady. "I choose this life. I choose this ranch, and I choose you." A soft smile lit Samuel's face, a smile she had waited months to see again. "Then we'll build something good here," he whispered. "Together." Ruth slid her hand into his, and for the first time she felt the truth settle warm and full in her chest. The girl her family had sent away was gone. The woman standing here had chosen her future. And she was home at last.